Hello everyone. Uh, in this video, I'll narrate two stories associated with shlokas 82 to 84. First is related to Kameshwara Prananadi. So we saw that Kameshwara Prananadi means she is the life force of Kameshwara, who's Shiva. And we spoke about Shiva Shaktya Yukto Yadi Bhavati Shakta Prabhavitum, meaning that Shiva and Shakti are conjoined. Only when they are together they are able to perform. Of course, the sloka says only when Shiva is with Shakti, he is able to act or create the universe, and otherwise he can't even stir. But the same is true for Shakti. Shakti is not separate from Shiva. So Shiva and Shakti are nothing but the fire and its heat, or water and its wetness. So one is not without the other. It's implicitly joined. And then even when we saw the Kalidasa, Vagartaviva Sampraktye. So that means like word and its meaning, they are inseparable. Right? So this is a story about Ardhanarishwara, who actually demonstrates that. Right? Ardhanarishwara shows half Shiva and half Shakti, conveying that Shiva and Shakti are inseparable. They are one and the same. And there is a big meaning behind it. So let's look at the story first. So once upon a time, there was a sage. His name is Bringi. And this Bringi was a ardent devotee of Shiva. He only believed in Shiva and not in any other god. Right? So as you can imagine, clearly all our Vedas are pointing to there being one ultimate reality, that is the Nirguna Brahman. We can have many forms of it just so that we are able to engage, but the idea is that you should be able to get to that ultimate reality. But Bringi was very stuck in Shiva being the only ultimate authority, the only ultimate god. As a result, Bringi would not worship anyone other than Shiva. So now Shiva marries Parvati, right? So they both are sitting in Kailasa, and a lot of sages are going to meet Shiva and Parvati. So Shiva is sitting in a throne, and Parvati is sitting next to him in a throne. And all these sages, after they meet, they all go around Shiva and Shakti as a pradakshinam. Now, Bringi has this serious concept of only worshipping Shiva. So, what Bringi does is he doesn't go around Shiva and Shakti together, he just goes around Shiva's throne, which actually is very interesting. Shiva finds it amusing that he is so fond of him. At the same time, he realizes that he didn't get the concept of this Shiva and Shakti togetherness, and Parvati is also very amused by this. So, next time the sages all come, this time they want to see what Bringi will do. So they both sit in the same throne, and Parvati is sitting on the lap of Shiva. Now they're curious to see what Bringi will do. And so sage Bringi comes in, and as usual, all other sages go around, whether in same throne or different thrones, they go around Shiva and Parvati all the time. Now Bringi has a catch because now they're sitting in the same throne. So he thinks about what to do. Immediately, he turns into a bird, and he goes around just Shiva's head. And now that amuses them even more. And so Shiva and Parvati are looking at it. And the next time the sages come, what they see is Shiva and Parvati have merged together, and now they look as Ardhanarishwara. And so now all the sages come, and they are now able to see this Ardhanarishwara, and they understand the principle behind it, and therefore they all go around. Now sage Bringi has still not recognized that Shiva and Shakti are inseparable and they are one and the same, and one cannot be without the other. And he is now thinking about now what to do. How can I? Now they're one and the same, right? So he turns himself into a bee, and he just goes around the right leg, which is the Shiva's leg. And looking at it, everybody is very amused, but Parvati tries to tell him that Shiva and Shakti are inseparable and that he has not recognized that concept. But Bringi adamantly refuses. He says Shiva is the male principle and he is the supreme man, and I will not accept anybody other than Supreme Man. No female is needed to make him complete. And even though you may be conjoined like this as Ardhanarishwara, Shiva can independently act, and he doesn't need anybody else, because that's a ardent worshipper, right? So he's completely devoted, but in that process, he's not seeing the principle of Shiva and Shakti being one and the same, and both becoming they're just the complementary aspects of that ultimate reality. So he's not seeing it. So Parvati then tells, if you don't accept the female principle and you think male principle is the only thing, then she says, now you will lose everything that you got from your mother. So then he loses all his flesh and blood, and he's only left with bones, and to the extent that he's not even able to stand. And at that point, he recognizes how both together is the whole essence of the universe. And then Shiva takes, bestows his grace on Bringi, and therefore he grows a third leg that allows to support him. And that's why you'll see in all these pictures, Bringi Munivar is someone who has 3 legs. And he's also called Bringi because he became a bee to go around Shiva's leg. So Bringi means bee in Sanskrit. So that's why he's called as Sage Bringi. So that is the story of Ardhanarishwara. And here the underlying principle is that Shiva and Shakti are the two complementary aspects. That is the one ultimate reality. But how does this apply to our life? If you see, in everyday life, there is always two sides to everything, right? So if there is success, there is failure. They are just the continuation of one or the other. So there is light and darkness. They're just continuation of one or the other. There is joy, there is sorrow, and there is pleasure, there is pain, and all of them come from the same source, right? There is only one ultimate reality. So if joy, good things come out of that ultimate reality, the bad things also come out of that ultimate reality. So in life there is always two sides to it, right? And as human beings, what happens is we always want only one side of it. We want success, but we don't like failure. We want pleasure, but we don't want to take pain. We want joy, but we become sad when we get sorrow. So this is how human life is. Rather than seeing this as a cycle and something that could happen and being more accepting of it, we become happy when we get one side of it, which is success, which is pleasure, which is joy, all that elates us. And then when we get the failure, sorrow, everything, then we become completely depressed. But life is a cycle and things happen. And this is what, the way to live a happy life is to be accepting of both sides. That doesn't mean that if failure comes, we accept it and sit down. We should continue to work, but we shouldn't take it to heart. And we should not make that limit our actions, or try to have limiting beliefs or fears based on what we have faced. So that is the way to approach life that continues to keep us happy. And this is what in Bhagavad Gita they call it as a sthita prajna. Sthitam means stiram. Stiram means firm. So no matter what happens, our ability to react to it in a balanced way, and that is the source of happiness, and that's a source of stress-free life. And that's what this Ardhanarishwara is trying to show to us, that whatever we see as two is nothing but the continuation of the same, and we have to set our mind to be able to accept it like that. So that's the story of Ardhanarishwara. And then a second story that is associated with Kama Pujita. So Kama Pujita, as we spoke about, was Manmada worshipped Lalita, right, in the Kamagiri Pita. So everything that's happening in the microcosm, it's also there in the macrocosm. So the Kamagiri Pitam is talking about a place where Shakti resides, and there are about 51 Shakti Pitas in the universe, and these are the places where Sati's body fell, and therefore they are all considered as energy centers. So 51 are Shakti Pitas. So just like the Kamagiri Pita is the Mooladhara Chakra, Purnagiri Pita is the Anahata Chakra, there is a Kamagiri Pitam in the macrocosm, and that is the Kanchipuram. There is a Jalandhara Pitam, and that is considered to be somewhere in Himachal Pradesh. There is also conflicting view that it could be the one in Jalandhar, Punjab, but there is a Jalandhar Peetham, and then there is also Udyana Peetham, which is the Odisha Girija Devi temple. Of course, there is also conflicting views. Some people think that Udyana Peetham is also Kanchipuram because Kanchi means golden ornament, and that golden ornament is the Udyanam that a woman wears. So there is conflicting things there, but Kamagiri Pita, for in many accounts, is considered as Kanchipuram. So these are all the Shakti Pitas. So out of the 51 Shakti Pitas, there are 18 Adi Shakti Pitas that are considered to be very special. And Adi Shankaracharya has elaborated these in his Ashtadasha Shakti Pita Stotram. And out of that 18, 3 are extremely important, which is Kanchipuram as the Kamagiri Pita, the Jalandhara Pita, and the Udyana Pita. These are super, super special. So today we'll see a story about Kanchipuram, the greatness of Kanchi. As we all know, the Kanchipuram, the Peetham and the Shakti Peetham in Kanchipuram is called as Kama Koti. So there are many ways to look at it. Kama Koti, Koti means 1 crore. So it is a place where the presiding goddess there is Kamakshi, and Kamakshi can give us many folds of what we desire. So Kama is a desire. She can give us many folds of what we desire. So people could desire just worldly enjoyment. I need house, I need things. So whatever we want, she gives it multifold in Kanchi as Kanchi Kamakshi. She's that graceful, she's that compassionate, and she is that generous. So that is one way to look at it. So Kama Koti means whatever our desires are, if we do something there, that becomes multifold, and multi could be the crores. Another way to look at it is Kama Kodi. Kodi means end. So it is also the end of all our desires. So if you see, for human beings, there is 4 Purusharthas, right? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Dharma is all the righteous things that we do, the path that we take. Artha is anything that gives us purpose in life. That could be all our property and relationships, etc. Kama could be anything that gives us pleasure, that allows us to indulge, makes us feel happy. So that could be looking at the scenery, or learning music, or dancing, whatnot, right? And then it could be many, many things for many people. We want to elaborate on those. And then finally, at the end of all of this, at the end of Kama, when all our desires are fulfilled, what is that state? That state is called as Moksha. So liberation. And with Sri Vidya Sadhana, this is a path where you get to the liberation from fullness, right? So with all our desires fulfilled, we will get to moksha. So then we become to a state where we have no desires. There is also another path where you reject everything, or renunciation, where you give up everything, control yourself. That is the sannyasam path. That is also another path, because then if you don't need anything, then you have no desires. That is also another way to get to moksha. But in this particular case, in Sri Vidya Sadhana, it is coming from a point of fullness. That's why Kamakshi grants us both worldly enjoyment as well as the liberation. And in Kanchipuram, Kamakshi is in many forms, and she is Kamakshi Parabhattarika, where she is nothing but Lalita Tripura Sundari, and she is one who grants worldly enjoyment as well as liberation. She's also there as Tapas Kamakshi, so Kamakshi who is in the state of penance, and this is the Kamakshi who was doing that penance to marry Shiva. So she is Gauri. She is a form of Gauri, but she is also a Nirguna Brahma. And then there is also Anjana Kamakshi, who's said to be Lakshmi, who was freed of her curse. And then she is also Swarna Kamakshi or Bangaru Kamakshi, one whom Brahma prayed to. And then she is also Utsava Kamakshi, who goes outside. And so today we'll see one story about how Manmata worshipped Kamakshi in Kanchi. So we all know that in the Bandasura Vadam, when Manmada tried to help with Shiva falling in love with Parvati so they can have a son who can kill Tarakasura. Unfortunately, Manmata got burnt, and out of his ashes came Bandasura, and the Lalita came to destroy Bandasura. So, at the end of destroying Bandasura, Lalita revived Manmata. So, there is also a line in Lalita Sahasranamam. It says, Hara Netragni Sandagda Kama Sanjeeva Naushadihi. So, she revived the Manmata who was burnt by the fire from the eyes of Shiva. Haran means Shiva. So, she revived. But when she revived Manmata was only visible to Rati, his wife. Nobody else can see Manmata. So he became Arupa or Ananga. He had no body or form, but he was only visible to Rati's eyes. And Lalita was very moved by Rati's plea, and that's how she restored. And so Manmada is supposed to be the most handsome man, right? There's nobody more handsome than Manmata. And now he's lost his form, and Manmata is feeling very bad about it. So, and he tried to go do some good for the overall devas, and now he's in this plight. So he goes to Kanchipuram and he's chanting this Panchadasakshari mantra, continuing to keep Devi in his heart and continuing to pray. And as he prays, Devi is very pleased with his prayer, and then she appears in front of him and she asks what is it that he wants. And therefore, immediately Manmata says, you know what, I tried to help the Devas and I bought into the plan that Brahma gave, and now because of that I have lost my form. So first request is that you should restore my body. So with just one side glance from Devi, Manmada regained his form. So that's also another reason she is called Kama Akshi. So she gave the form to Kama with just her eyes, with her kataksham. She was able to give him his form. So that is number one. And then number two, Manmada said, oh, thank you so much. You gave me the form. I'm so glad. But now there is another request that I have of you. And she said, okay, go ahead. Tell me what is it that you want. And he said, I went to help the Devas, but in the process, Shiva burnt me. And now everywhere, I'm only known as the person who got burnt by Shiva, but people have forgotten that I am the god of love and I'm so important for creation, right? And I'm the one who keeps the universe going, because if everything that is born will die, and unless there is again and again birth, then this universe cannot sustain. So he says, I play such an important part in creation, but now everywhere I'm only known as the person who got burnt by Shiva. So you please restore my reputation. I want to be known as the god of love and not as the person who got burned by Shiva. So she said, okay, then how can I help you do that? And he said, this, I feel like my reputation will be restored only if Shiva is consumed by passion and he needs my help in order to meet Gauri. So if you do that, and if he is subject to my arrows, only then I will feel like now I have won. Because originally, remember, he put the arrows, Manmata's arrows didn't work on Shiva. Instead of being consumed with love, he was mad, and that's why he burnt him down. So he wants to make sure, Manmata wants to make sure that Shiva will be consumed by passion with the arrows that he is putting, and he should seek Manmata's help to get Gauri. In that way, he will feel like his honor is restored. So immediately, Kamakshi agreed for that plan, and so what she did is she pulled all the Shaktis into herself. Now suddenly there is no Shakti anywhere, everything is concentrated only in Kanchipuram. So Gauri, Parvati, is also a form of Shakti, right? She is a form of Adi Shakti. So she was also sucked in. So in all the Shivas, the Kshetras everywhere, there is no Shakti anywhere. So then, now that Kamakshi has granted him the form, as well as she said, don't worry, I'll help you win over Shiva. Now, all emboldened by all of these things, Manmada goes to Kailasa, and in Kailasa he is trying to put his flowery arrows on Shiva. So Manmata put the first arrow on Shiva, and then Shiva opened his eyes, and this time he was not meditating. So Shiva tried to burn him down as usual. But this time, what happened was, when Shiva opened his third eye, it didn't burn Manmata. Rather, all the fire sparks that were coming turned into jewel, and it became a beautiful crown on Manmata's head. Shiva was a bit surprised. Last time he did that, this guy was completely burned down. Now it is. So he started to think, oh, this is unusual. And then he went ahead and threw his Trishul at Manmata so that he can engage in a physical warfare with him. And the Trishul became a victory staff, and it just came and stood next to him like a victory veil. So then Shiva now is completely suspicious, and then as a final try, he throws his Pashupatastra. This is the most serious weapon there is. When he puts that, that becomes a garland and falls in the neck of Manmata. Now Shiva is completely convinced that there is Shakti's hand in this. Without that, this will not work at all. So he decides, okay, this is Parvati's place, so I have to go find her. So he goes to go find Parvati. He's searching for Parvati all over Kailasa. She's nowhere to be found, which he's surprised. He's thinking, what is she up to? What is happening? And then he realizes that with his mind's eye, he's able to see that Parvati is in Kanchipuram. So he goes to Kanchipuram, and there Kamakshi is sitting in the form of Gauri, Parvati. And then Shiva walks up there and he says, I've been searching for you everywhere. Why did you come to the Adi Shakti Peetam? And come, let's go home. And then Kamakshi, in the form of Parvati, looks up to him and coolly asks him, who are you? Shiva's completely stunned. He says, what? You're asking me who I am? I'm your husband. Come, let's go home. And then Kamakshi says, I'm not your wife. I'm the Adi Shakti here. And if you want your wife, you have two choices. Either you go and ask Manmada to help you to find your wife, or you sit here and do penance for so that I will be pleased to grant you your wife. These are the two choices for you. You pick which one you want. Now Shiva was not having any of this, and she was looking at as Gauri, and she was in the form of Parvati. So he pulled her hand and said, come, let's go home, stop all this playing. And then with her eyes, with just a one side glance, Kamakshi created crores of Manmata, and they all started attacking Shiva for pulling Adi Shakti. And immediately Shiva created crores of Rudras, and then the Rudra army and the Manmata army were fighting with each other. Finally, with the blessings of Kamakshi, the Manmata army was victorious. So Shiva lost to Manmata. And then he said, okay, you should approach Manmata in order for you to find Parvati. So then Manmata now had the chance to put all his arrows so that Shiva will be consumed with passion for Parvati and will go find her. So Manmata put all his 5 arrows. So he has Panchabana, and those Banam means arrow, Pancha means 5. So he put all the 5 arrows, and they are flowery arrows. So the first arrow he put was a lotus flower, and Shiva accepted that as a seat. And the next one he put was a Ashoka flower, and Shiva used that as a decoration. And then the third one he put was a mango flower, which he used it as his attire. And then the fourth one he put was a jasmine flower, which he used it as a garland. Shiva used as a garland. And then the fifth one that he put was a Nilotpala, which is a blue lotus, and Shiva used that as a coolant for his third eye. So Shiva accepted all the 5 arrows, and then Manmata told him that you should just ask Kamakshi. She's someone who's capable of telling everything. And also, it is the same Kamakshi who was the Annapurani who helped Shiva get out of the curse as Bhikshadana. And she told him that your wife Parvati is in the Udyana Pita and you can go find her there. So, in that way, Shiva lost to Manmata, and now everybody knows that Manmata is the god of love and his arrows work for everybody. Even Shiva is subject to it. And therefore, Kanchipuram is also called as Rudrajit or Shivajit Kshetra, because Shiva lost to Manmada there. And if you see, because Kamakshi pulled all the Shaktis all over, every Shakti in every temple anywhere is nothing but the Adi Shakti, the manifestation of Adi Shakti. And because Shiva lost Manmada, um, in Kanchipuram, none of the Shiva temples have Shakti. And there is only one temple for Kamakshi. So the Shaktis only reside in Kamakshi temple, and there is only one temple for her in Kanchipuram. So this is the story of how Manmada won over Shiva with her help, and in that she is Sadhya Prasadini. As soon as he asked, she was able to bestow her grace on him. And Kanchipuram has very many interesting stories. There is a story associated with Tapa Kamakshi, and it's also said that once Kamakshi became a Ugraswarupini, meaning that she became very ferocious and she wreaked havoc around the city, and everybody started fearing Kamakshi. And so at that time, Adi Shankaracharya was there, and he was feeling very bad that people were thinking Kamakshi is a Ugra Devata and she could harm them. And therefore, he pleaded with her, and he installed the Sri Chakram, and he brought all her anger down, and then she became a Shantaswarupini. So that's why Kamakshi is sitting there in Padmasana with such a benevolent smile on her face. So she is that version. And then when she calmed down, Adi Shankaracharya said, here afterwards, if you want to go out of the temple, you should first take my permission. Only then you can go out. I don't want other people thinking that you are a ferocious goddess. So that is something that's followed till today. So in all the utsavas, when there is a marriage between Shiva and Kamakshi, Ekamranata and Kamakshi as Ekambika, when they are doing that, before Kamakshi gets out of the temple, regardless of any festival, if she's getting out of the temple, they first go to the Adi Shankaracharya shrine, and they ask for his permission, and only after Kamakshi takes his permission, she can come out. So Kanchipuram is one of the most sacred cities that we have, and even Kalidasa says that, Narishu Ramba, Nagareshu Kanchi, Pushpeshu Jati, Purusheshu Vishnu, means it is the most eminent city out of all cities. So Kanchi is one place where even if you're just by being born in Kanchi or dying in Kanchi, that person's sins are all erased, and therefore it is considered to be a place that grants moksha. And as we saw, it is also a place where as soon as somebody prays, all their wishes are fulfilled in multifold. So that is a little bit about Kanchipuram. That's all for today. Thank you.